It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Every night it's feeling alright. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Why not come over tonight? We talk about everything under the moon. Your favorite cartoon or song you love. You never really know just how it might go. Why don't we get things started? It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. A hard day's late night with Ira.
This week's episode of A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira brought to you by Acme Exterminators. You've got a pest, now try the best. Acme Exterminators. Let's get to the show, shall we? Come on. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 6, season 1 of A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira. I was born in New York City, and I lived there for most of my life until I was around 50. And that's a long time. And I miss living in New York a lot less than I thought I would, generally. It's not an easy city to live in. It's pretty stressful. But what I do miss are my connections to the network of musicians and artists and friends that I acquired over those many years. Your proximity to talent is really omnipresent there. One of the people I was lucky to meet along this path was a guitarist named Andy York. He's not famous, I guess, by most standards, but like the majority of even the best musicians, he's not a household name, but he is decidedly invaluable. A musician's musician. And by that I mean someone who is both possessed of great musical talent, but is also one of those people you just like having around. His mere presence seems to have a great calming effect somehow. Affable and confident, no ego issues, a team player of the highest order. And he plays slide guitar, which makes him extra valuable. Andy was guitarist in Jason and the Scorchers through the late 80s. And features prominently on their 1989 album, Thunder and Fire. But if you recognize Andy at all, it's likely that you're a John Mellencamp fan, because Andy has been John's guitarist for many, many years now. I have to go back to my notes to see exactly how many, but it's a lot.
30 years. It was 30 years.
There you go, 30 years. Thanks, Biff. You know what? That's a great job. And in and of itself, it's great. He could have left it at that. But Andy also has a second calling as a record producer. And as such, he's produced albums with not only John Mellencamp, but also singer-songwriter Bruce Henderson and Ian Hunter, a solo artist now for many years and original singer of Mott the Hoople. I met Andy through friends on a few occasions. I'm pretty sure he got dragged to a couple of Not a Surf shows along the way. And as it happens in a place like New York City, I found myself suddenly sitting in with a blues singer, songwriter, film actor named Jake Labatz. And Andy and Jake played guitar, and me. I don't think there was a bassist. Maybe that's why it went so well. We didn't even rehearse beforehand. I just listened to 8 or 9 of Jake's songs, tried to get a feel for them, and off we went. And that happened maybe once or maybe twice. And so that lit my fire to play more with Andy. I did get to do a nice little tour with Jake without Andy about a year later. But the closest I got to playing with Andy was my unrequited desire to start a Faces cover band. Of course, when I approached Andy, the only guitarist I knew who played slide, which is absolutely essential if you're going to start a Faces cover band, he was totally game to do it, although he was already in a Faces cover band with a bunch of other dudes at the same time. And I'm still sorry that never came to fruition, but when I started to think about interesting folks that I knew that would make great interview subjects, Andy was one of the first people I thought of. I've been lucky to be a working musician for pretty much as long as I can remember, but I have never worked at the level that Andy works on a daily basis. Like, he'll be on stage just weeks from now at Farm Aid 40 with a bunch of nobodies. Let's see, Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Who are these people? Dave Matthews, Kenny Chesney, Steve Earle. You get the idea, right? Anyway, you know what? Let's get into it. Please enjoy the interview with someone I am lucky to call a friend, Andy York. I've been making these episodes with with the help of my friend Dan, our mutual friend Dan.
Yeah,
Von Baron. He's my producer, and
the mayor.
he's the greatest. And I'm gonna get back to him in a minute because he's the reason we know each other. And,
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to sort of, for the this like first season of episodes, it was mostly like, well, Ira, well, what are you interested in? Things that you want to talk about. And I feel like I quickly ran out of those things. Once I got out of like drum sets and Ringo, I lost the path. And then I thought, well, I should just interview interesting people about themselves because they're fucking interesting. And you were the first guy that came up. You were sort of in the air. And I'm like, why don't I just talk to Andy York about himself? Because you're an interesting guy and you do so many interesting things and you're involved in so much interesting stuff now and in the past. So this is about you. It's not about me. It's all about you. So
Right.
so the first thing I want to sort of get out there is, and since I kind of know who you are to some degree, I think we just start with a sort of a broad overview. Now, you're most well known at this point for being John Mellencamp's like secondhand guy. Like you play rhythm guitar with him for how many years on stage?
Well, I do. I've done rhythm and lead basically for 30 years. We just had our 30th anniversary.
Wow, yeah.
January 15th was the first time I did a record with him, and then I was asked to join the band.
Yeah.
So it's been 30 years, and it's a pretty close musical relationship.
Yeah.
I can sort of finish his musical sentences, and I'm fascinated by how his musical mind works.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge, and it's a lot of fun, and it's very sort of like personally rewarding for me because I get to be super creative, in a way that I haven't, really. With other people, I've kind of been more of a side man, which is fine,
Right.
but this is kind of my gig where I get to, use all the colors in the paint box.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's a difference between being a guy who's hired in a band, you're just kind of like a side guy, and actually being kind of really a member of the band where you're creating and you're writing and you're sort of really in the process. That's a different level of commitment. So, but let's just go back a little bit. Let's go now. It's funny because 30 years. That's about the same time I've been in my band, Not a Surf, for like closing in on 30 years now too. It's been a long run.
Good on you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I can't believe we're about to release a new record in a few months, and so I'm very excited about, again, like the ongoing process of being an artist and creating and making stuff and going on the road. And that's kind of what I was thinking about. I think when I wanted to talk to you about the creative process, number one, and about the road, number two, which is different for every musician. But let's go back again. I just want to rewind and go back to just your beginnings. Let me have a brief overview. You started playing at what age?
Well, I would say, my dad was very musical. He was a fighter pilot.
Oh, wow.
But he kind of had a second job. Yeah, we lived in, we moved all over the place. When I was very young, we lived in Selma, Alabama during that time. I think we moved there in 63 and we left in 66. So I actually, sidebar here, I watched the March to Montgomery.
Wow.
I watched the March to Montgomery
Incredible.
as a child, but I don't really remember it because we had a chain link fence that bordered the base that we lived on, and the highway was right there.
Wow.
So I was there, and
Yeah.
it was Selma. It was kind of we lived on an Air Force base, so I was kind of shielded from any racial stuff, really.
Yeah. Well, at that age, yeah.
Yeah, and we were from Kansas, so.
Right.
But you go where you're sent in the Air Force. But my dad also played Dixieland clarinet, and he came from a pretty good too. I mean, he would have done that, but he also liked to fly jets. So
right.
but my my grandmother on his mother, my grandmother York, was she taught music, and she was opera quality singer, is what I've been told.
Right.
Her son, my dad's brother Jim, was a teacher and concert pianist, and his son Paul plays with the Louisville Symphony.
Right on.
He's like a big time cello player and professor,
Yeah.
and he's like extraordinarily scarily talented. And his sister, my cousin, and she teaches at I think Villanova, but it's all music. That York side was,
Very musical, yeah.
yeah.
So it was like
And my dad,
so it was in the air. It was like around you all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, my dad had his buddies over, and they'd play like all this music. Like Herb Alpert was my number one, and
Yeah.
I kind of learned. I was so interested in playing drums
Oh,
that
yeah.
my mom had these toy drums, and I would just beat the crap out of them. I'd be age 3 and 4, and I was playing in time to Hal Blaine. Turns out
Yeah.
Hal
Right.
Blaine
Didn't
was a
know.
huge influence. Um,
So you started as
and I
kind of as a
just,
drummer. You started as a drummer.
yeah, I
That's
did
not
start
uncommon.
as a drummer. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I was way into drums. Then you discover Ringo, and then little sort of miniature drum sets and stuff. And then I discovered the Beatles, and I decided I wanted to tackle guitar. So
Right.
the Beatles and the Stones, and I was heavily into Grand Funk. Don't ask
Oh
me why,
no,
but
Grand Funk. No, Grand. I often think about Grand Funk as really the only American band at that period who really could compete with the biggest. You had
yeah,
Zeppelin. All the British bands were in ascendance. You had all these big touring Zeppelin, all the British bands.
yeah,
And there were very few big, heavy American rock bands in that period playing on that
yeah,
same level. I think Grand Funk were really the only ones I can name.
yeah. It's certainly the early ones. I mean, the early people that did it, because they sell at Shea Stadium, on their second album tour or
Yeah,
something like that, or
yeah.
third.
They were a great live
But
band. Yeah.
yeah, I was heavy into them. I never got to see them, but because I was too young. But and I lived in Tampa, Florida at that point.
Oh
We
wow.
moved to Tampa,
Yeah.
and then so I started like getting interested in guitar. My dad bought me like a $30 Teisco Prestige,
Nice.
which I lost.
Oh.
As when I got like an Aria copy of a Les Paul, and then I don't know what happened to the Teisco, but during COVID, I found a mint Teisco, and I got it,
Yeah.
and it's about 3 feet long, or two and a half. I mean, I was like,
It's like a ukulele.
yeah, I mean, but when I was a little kid, I've got a
It's
picture, and it's as big as me.
right. Yeah, it's like that
So
Angus Young thing where he plays an SG and it looks giant on Angus because
yeah,
he's very small.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I got into guitar, and I started getting interested in putting bands together, and then we moved to North Carolina, and I ended up, my I kind of it was a struggle for my parents to accept the music thing, and I totally understand why, because this kid's obsessed with music, and how's he going to make a living? He'll
Right.
never make a living,
Sure.
and
Sure. Yeah.
that's kind of how I would feel too right now.
Yeah. Of
So
course. Any
I
any
understand
parent
their
would.
terror, which was pretty big. And so I went to college. I went to UNC, and I got a degree in sort of communications and making 60 millimeter films. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
pretty good at that. But then trying to get then my friend Nick convinced me that I should move to New York because he's an actor, and it would be all great and everything. So I finished up. I did a little apprenticeship at a TV a commercial making company called Production House,
Yeah.
Jefferson Productions in Charlotte. And I had enough of that, and I just moved.
Right.
I didn't really have a plan. I just moved to New York blindly because I was so obsessed with music that I didn't want to do anything else. And I was just fearless, and I didn't have any. Maybe I just didn't have the sense to be scared. It wasn't like I was feeling like I could fall back on my parents, because I really didn't want to do that. So I moved to New York, and I lived with Nick for a little bit, and then I got my own place, and et cetera. Things went on, and I would just play any gig I could find. Remember Dan Lynch?
Oh,
I
sure.
used to go to Dan Lynch,
Sure, yeah.
And drag my amplifier and a guitar up there
Wow.
and do I had a deluxe reverb, which I still
Those are
have.
heavy, yeah.
I didn't care. I just wanted to play.
Right. And it was like an
You
open
know,
it was like an open night kind of
yeah,
thing where you just
open
like, yeah,
mic,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I remember going in one memorable time. I just started playing "Hot Stuff" by the Rolling Stones,
Right.
and everybody's like, "Yeah, man,
Yeah. That's one of those riffs that everyone like jumps in or they don't.
yeah, yeah." You can start a conversation with that musically.
Well, yeah,
So
we're gonna get back to the
yeah,
Stones a lot. The Stones are gonna. I think the
yeah,
Stones are sort of drifting over
yeah,
this whole. Are going to be drifting over this whole conversation because there's a lot of Stones in all the
absolutely,
stuff we're going to talk about.
yeah,
There's a Stones thing. But please continue. I'm sorry.
yeah. And so then through mutual friends, I met this guy that was in the band Jason and the Scorchers,
Oh yeah, we're just
Warner
talking about
Hodges,
those guys. Yeah.
the great Warner E. Hodges. He's a fabulous guitar player, and I sort of befriended him. I didn't tell him I played music for about 6 months because he was coming up to New York to visit his then girlfriend, and finally, I let on that I was a guitar player, and then long story less long. I mean, he says, well, you should meet this guy, Bruce Henderson, because this guy's looking to put a band together. So he introduced me to my friend Bruce Henderson, and we started putting a band together called Hearts and Minds. And all this is original music, which I was like so keen on.
Yeah.
I guess I knew then I didn't really want to play cover songs,
Sure.
and I wasn't really writing. I was more, even then, I was more of an arranger. Here's how you can do this song, because that was what really interested me. The ins and outs of songs, but I never viewed myself as a songwriter per se.
Right.
But I was fortunate, I hit it off with a couple of really decent songwriters and bands that wrote their own music. So I was in there with Bruce. Bruce was getting a deal with A&M, and so it looked like we were gonna, do something. And then the Scorchers got a deal with A&M, so I was basically and they asked me to join, and I'm like, yeah, because this is like some serious touring experience I can get. And
Were they established already at that point?
Oh yeah. Jason and the Scorchers were like they exploded on the national scene as country punk.
Yeah, no, I have that
And
first
they
record
did,
with White Lies on it.
yeah. That's a great album.
Is that the first one?
Yeah. No, the first one is an EP called Fervor, and that's got what launched them. I think was their wild version of Bob Dylan, Absolutely Sweet Marie.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I've known
Really cool version, and that album's got great stuff on it.
Yeah.
And then they were signed to EMI, and they did an album. The next one was Lost and Found. They did with Terry Manning at Ardent Studios, which is kind of legendary. Terry Manning did some of Led Zeppelin 3,
Right.
among so many other. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is a great opportunity. Well, it was awkward because Bruce was like, hey, we're doing this band. And turns out they both got signed to A&M.
Mm.
So I was like, well, I guess I have to quit the Scorchers because I promised Bruce, and then it turns out the A&R guy was the same for both bands.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, listen, just do both. I'll make it easy for you to do both. Well,
Wow.
So I did for a couple of years. It didn't endear me to either band. So rule number one, don't be in two bands.
Okay.
Like that.
Let me get some paper. Okay, go ahead.
Don't ever be in two bands.
Yeah.
Because you'll be the one in the middle,
Right.
and it can do some psychological damage to you.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
But so anyway, I did both of them. Scorchers album came out in '89, and we toured, and they broke up. We actually opened for Bob Dylan on the Oh Mercy tour for about a month. and then they got dropped from A&M. And then the Hearts and Minds album came out in February of '90, and the month after that, they were dropped by A&M.
Wow.
So
Really, so fast. A month
I went
later.
on this journey. Well, the problem was A&M was bought by
It's one of
you
those
know
things. I'm not going to remember now.
Universal, basically.
Right.
You know.
MC,
And what's now Universal. But so that kind of crashed and burned, and I was, again, going back to legal proofreading, which is how
my
I put
gosh.
myself, in rent and food.
Wow.
And
that sounds very boring.
yeah, but I mean, I failed to mention that the reason I got to the Mellencamp camp
Yeah.
is because A&M wanted Mike Wanchik to produce Hearts and Minds.
Yeah.
So we went out there in June of '89 and we did this album. And Kenny Aronoff and Toby Myers and John Casella and Mike and me played on it. And they basically used our arrangements, because we had demoed, A&M made us demo like 45 songs. And the Scorchers, same, 45. So I figured out I did like 90 songs, over a year and a half.
Wow.
Good, good for your chops. Good for your
Yeah.
recording chops too.
Sure.
But it was a really great experience recording out. That's the first time I went to Belmont Mall, John Mellencamp's studio.
Oh, okay.
And
that's his
and
personal.
he
That's
came,
his home studio.
yeah, that's this studio where all those records are, where we still to this day.
Yeah.
It's a cottage that got turned into a studio and an office. It's kind of his office and the studio together. Nice. So I went out there and we did, our songs, and he came out once and he's, pretty gruff, and, what you guys doing with Wanchik, but I'm told he liked it, so
yeah.
Anyway, then everything falls apart and I'm back to proofreading, doing some, club dates. I got in on that helped. And then I got a call from Mike saying, "Hey, you want to come out and play some guitar? We're doing this theme song for this movie, Blue Chips." And Mike, because Mike was friends, we were friends and everything. I just lost contact with him. So to reestablish contact was great. And, sort of go back to right where he left off. He's like, "Yeah," John said, "what about that kid from Hearts and Minds? Let's get him out here." And I said, "Sure, I'll be out." And we did this cover of Baby Please Don't Go.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was off and running. And then I was, next thing I know, I'm doing another album.
Yeah.
I'm doing an album the next month with John. That was the Dance Naked album. And then I was asked to join the band in that, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. Incredible.
Hard to believe,
No, it's an amazing journey.
The luck part,
Yeah, there's a lot of luck, but it has to do, personalities. There's certain people that guys are gonna, hey, I want to work with that guy because he's just a nice guy. You're easy to get along with. There's kind of, you have to not be difficult, or you have to be a team. You have to be a team player naturally, because everyone else, you just want to be comfortable, and no one will you put your back up because of certain people. But I guess a main artist can be that way, but his band can't be that way.
Yeah, and Ira, that's all I really wanted to do, was be a team player. I just wanted to be in a kick-ass band, and I wanted to be like Keith, or George,
Sure,
one of those guys.
I'm exactly the same. I wanted to be Ringo, and I feel like on some level I achieved that. I'm not the greatest drummer in the world, but I get to do what I do, fully. Like whatever my skill set is, I'm able to use it completely in the context of whatever musical group, and I think you're very similar in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what would Ira do? And that's what they look to me. What would he do?
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky and grateful to be in the position I'm at, which is making a living playing music.
Yeah.
Because it could have easily gone the other way.
You could dwell on could have been this, could have been that. Sure.
Yeah, you could do that all day long, and it's just kind of a a waste of your time. Just
Yeah,
as long as you, I mean, humility goes a long way with me anyway. But
yeah.
one is, um, you have the talent,
Right.
so
Yeah, no, lean
just
into it. There's a
accept
there's
it.
a line between being,
Yeah,
having humility about, I'm okay, I'm not so great, and then
yeah,
like, hey, I'm
yeah,
not that bad. I'm
yeah,
pretty good. Like I can deliver if you need me to deliver. That's a kind
yeah,
of a self-confidence thing. As a drummer,
yeah,
drummers kind of run on self-confidence, and you have to
yeah,
self-belief is central to the
yeah,
whole, that little house of cards will
yeah,
crumble without just a simple
yeah,
belief that you can handle whatever it is coming at you, and you can use whatever skills you have to make it happen. I can throw you an easy Stones riff, and then
yeah,
it's not that complicated, and suddenly everyone's having a good time.
yeah,
A
yeah.
riff,
And it's not the Stones anymore. It's your
right?
own,
It's right. It's your own
Yeah,
thing. It's a variation. You've
yeah,
taken what you've learned and moved on. It's so fascinating to me. I'm so fascinated by process. Like as a drummer, I love structure.
yeah. Me
I've sort
too.
of I'm still trying to work at being a songwriter. I love songwriting. I'm still trying to get better at it.
Yeah,
But I also like fascinated with structure and how things go together and how things get built and everyone has a different process. I don't know how, for example, John Mellencamp would do it, but well, that's a good question. Like how, like a typical John Mellencamp song, does he write a lyric first? Does a piece of music come first? How does in the aggregate, how does that happen?
well, these days, and um, pretty much all along, nowadays he makes a voice memo on his iPhone
Uh-huh.
of him, a very rough outline of a song, like with three or four chords tops, and a melody and lyrics,
Right. Him
and he
playing him
sends it
like
to
him sitting
me.
with a guitar
Yeah,
playing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he has a style, that's pretty cool. He's not the greatest guitar player, he'll tell you that, but he has a thing
Right.
that that needs to be somehow incorporated into the song
Yeah.
on a guitar.
Right.
And so I always look at the song as being like a naked thought, a naked thought. And what I end up doing is put clothes on it, clothe
Right.
it,
Yeah.
put the structure to it, because John is a painter
Right.
for one thing, and he approaches things in a painterly way musically too. He he is not um, he is not afraid of chaos. You
Mm.
know, I'm not so good with chaos. As you
Yeah.
can ask anybody. I
Yeah.
bet you're not either.
Well, no, I
You
don't
know,
mind chaos. I play in a band. I play in a band who's very, very kind of rigid and structured. We don't do a lot of stuff that's kind of random and make stuff up. It's
yeah,
pretty structured, and I
yeah,
work well within that. But I'm not
yeah,
afraid of.
yeah,
I've never really worked in a chaotic situation. I can't really say.
yeah. Well, I'm better equipped to do a chaotic situation with John really than like say regular life. But it fascinates me. He does this, and he'll give me this voice memo, and he'll give me a suggestion, and I'll take it under advisement. But a lot of times I'm hearing something else, and I put the arrangement around what I'm hearing, and I'll send it. I'll make a little demo of it with, I use this Easy Drummer program,
Mm, yeah.
and I'll come up with a
Great.
drum
Thanks.
beat
That's great.
that's
Thanks, Andy, for the
simple.
easy drummer. That's great. That's cool. No, I'm just I'm not kidding.
Well, I don't have a drum set. That's what they
Yeah,
cost.
you could do it
And
yourself, right? I mean, you could silly,
yeah,
technically speaking, you could theoretically do that if you had the.
yeah,
Yeah,
my timing's not so good with the foot,
yeah,
but that's a whole nother
yeah.
story.
Okay.
But it's about kind of getting the thing down quick, and the more tribal it can sound
Tribal.
rhythmically,
Yeah.
the better shot I'm gonna have. And I'll think of songs that I want to sort of steal from,
Yeah.
great artists steal, right? They
Yeah. I
don't
know you have
borrow,
something like, oh, I can reference this kind of feel or
meaning
this.
him. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't consider myself an artist, but
You don't.
so we'll put the clothes on it, and he'll
Yeah.
say great, and then we'll go in, when it's time to record the song, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Like on the album, the Orpheus
It's the
Descending
new
album.
one. I was going to ask you about that
Yeah,
too.
it's like the song "Land of the So-Called Free" is
Yeah.
pretty close to the demo that I did, as is "Hey God."
Yeah.
But you know, then we get in there and we put the thing down, and then it's like we sonically paint over it too, and
Yeah.
that he's like full of ideas, you know, and it's
Fantastic.
really inspiring.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we do it, you know. We've already started on, you know, in January. I think he just got bored and he started writing more songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started working on new arrangements, you know, and this album he wants to do as a stripped down, like just me, the violin player Lisa Germano, and the
Oh, yeah.
keyboard player Troy Kinnett. And
Oh, wow.
so really more like one of those Bob Dylan albums. He really loves As Good As I've Been to You, and the
Oh,
one World Gone Wrong after that, where it's
right.
basically just Bob and an acoustic.
Yeah. Yeah. Very,
But
very
we'll
stripped down.
flesh
Yeah.
it out a
Yeah.
little more than that.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, that's our kind of our
And
process.
I noticed I only heard the single Orpheus Rising, but it's very political. It's the whole record. Very obviously, you mentioned some titles. It sounds like a very political, angry political record for the moment that we're in.
He tends to take a snapshot of the world in his songs and how things are degressing,
Yeah.
regressing, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But you know, he's there to report, you know, what he sees. You
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, I was amazed that I guess I shouldn't be amazed. He's the kind of guy. He's the sort of a. I mean, I only know him from my impression of him over the years, you know, from a distance, as a sort of a, you know, a sort of a, you know, guy who's like, you know, motorcycles, you know, working class, you know, that's his
Small
whole
town.
thing. Yeah, he's kind of like, yeah, he's a little like Springsteen, but a little tougher, you know, like you know, actually on a motorcycle. Springsteen, I don't think you catch Springsteen on a motorcycle for real, but you know, like that's his whole vibe, like a kind of a tough guy, roughneck. And I noticed he drops a huge F-bomb in the chorus, like it's built into the chorus of Orpheus Rising. It's an interesting choice for an artist to make, to like put the word fucking in the, you know, like there's got to be a fucking way. Like that's the, you know, the whole chorus really hangs on this F-bomb. Like a great comedian, sometimes you have to have that word in there to like to drive your point home. It's an interesting choice to make.
Plus, it's a dead stop, so you know you're not going to miss it.
Yeah, no, it's very, very.
Everybody
it's very
stops
clear.
and he says, "Drop the F-bomb."
Yeah, but I'm sure his audience, you know, is fine with who know him like that. That's what, you know, that's the way he is.
Yeah.
You know, he's speaking directly. Yeah.
Yeah, they dig him for that, and you know, I mean, he pulls no punches. He speaks his mind. You're never going to be confused where he stands.
Sure.
You know,
right.
He's not a waffler. He has strong opinions, but he'll tell you they're my opinions. Doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
He'll be the first one to say that, and I just find his process fascinating. You know, and he's a massively great painter.
Oh yeah. So there's the Orpheus Rising record, and John,
or Orpheus Descending.
Orpheus Descending. I'm sorry, that's something else. What is that? You know, I should know more about. I'm vaguely illiterate. What is that a reference to? Orpheus
Okay,
Descending.
I'll tell you. It is a play by Tennessee Williams.
Ah, there you go.
Orpheus Descending.
Yeah.
And it's based on. I mean, the Orpheus part comes from the Greek mythology. Orpheus was the god of. He was a kick-ass musician, right?
Oh, is
he
that
had
right?
magical powers, and his wife. Long story short, his wife ended up in Hades, so he descends into hell to try and save her, and I think he gets stuck there. But it's a Greek mythology thing. Now Tennessee Williams took it and made a play. There's nothing to do with Orpheus, the Greek. It has to do with you know, a character who is a musician and in the deep South, and it's become. They made it into a movie called The Fugitive Kind with Marlon Brando.
Oh, really?
I
should know that. I should know
Snake,
that.
I think.
I'm gonna have to go seek that out. I bet that's a great.
Yeah,
movie.
you should watch that. That was a big movie to John. His parents took him to see it.
Oh wow!
Kind of like my parents took me to see Midnight Cowboy when I was 8.
Wow! Yeah. That
made a profound impression.
I bet.
So he named it. He named the album Orpheus Descending before we even had the song.
Right, but he saw that as a kind
of. It's
a
concept.
fantastic.
Yeah. But
Fantastic.
he loves Tennessee Williams and, you know, all the old movies with James Dean and Marlon Brando
Yeah.
and Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Now, we were talking about it as being such a great painter, and I just have a little story that I remember watching.
Yeah.
There was a TV show a couple of years ago hosted by Sammy Hagar, who sort of would drive around the country and
Yeah.
talk to people. And there was an episode where he drives
Yeah.
and meets with John. And
In the art barn, right? Yeah.
Exactly, and I watched it with fascination because I can't imagine two more oil and water characters than these two guys. And Sammy going into the whole thing was like, I'm kind of nervous. I don't know how this is going to go. And, he's got a reputation of being kind of prickly or whatever. And then what ensued was the conversation between these two guys. And I could see that John could just barely stand. Like, what proceeded was Sammy Sammy asked him about his early career and why he did this and why he made certain choices about his name and why he didn't do this and why did he reject this kind of thing. And what John went on to say was like, I rejected, without saying it, he said, all the things that you are, Sammy Hagar, I didn't want to be those things. Like, we're the band coming to town to party it down. Well, I don't mean to reference Grand Funk again, but like that sort of like party band, and like he's going to be kind of party guy, and it's going to be this thing. Like he goes, that's not the way I was. That's the way I wanted to be, and I didn't want to be sold that way. But I saw it as a complete like refutation to Sammy right there, and then Sammy trying to engage John on some level was like asking him like, I'll give you a quick who are your favorite artists, like would you choose Picasso, or like he gives him these sort of like grade school questions, and he just had to keep from rolling his eyes at these questions. That interview did not go well, I didn't think, but it was fascinating to watch these two guys try to sort of have a conversation. I could see that they were not going to be friends on that kind of level. I didn't see that.
It's funny
anyway.
you could say. It's funny you say that because they actually are friends.
Oh, is
they
that
talk
right?
on the phone.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I totally read it wrong, but it seemed to me like it was hard to. Sammy's not an art. Doesn't seem to be an art guy on that like that way.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. I mean, I don't. It's hard to have a conversation about art with John because he's like a serious artist.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
He asked me what I think of this painting. I'm like, that's really cool. I mean, what am I
going to say? Yeah,
say,
like your use of color
I
reminds
love
me
that.
of
And it does resonate. And I love his paintings, but I'm not articulate enough on his level to discuss.
Well, a few people
Well,
are.
it looks like there's a little bit of what?
Yeah, to read the influences, you're not going to be able to do that. And like, there's a little, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't same way. Like either you like it, it speaks to you.
I
or
don't
you
presume,
Right. I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what art's supposed to do. It's either speak to you, whether you can understand, like songs, like you understand them or you don't. Like they hit you or they don't hit you, and and they may hit you for a reason that the artist didn't even expect. Like people interpret songs to their own way. Like that once you've written a song and put it out there, like what you thought it meant kind of is irrelevant. Like it's what the listener hears that.
Right. What they take away from
exactly.
it. Right.
Yeah, and that might not have been your intention.
Kind of liberating.
Yeah, but you have to let it go into the world, and it becomes its own character. So we've talked about John and that relationship, but I also, Dan gave me the word, and I listened through both of the last Ian Hunter albums that you produced.
Correct.
Which are both astonishing on a number of levels. Not merely because Ian is still a great, interesting singer-songwriter with a unique voice and a unique take, and fun and engaging, but the cast of characters, of players on these records is it's stellar. I mean, I'm thinking about it like from a couple of guys we lost. Jeff Beck's on there. Taylor Hawkins plays on a number of tracks. But you have the whole rhythm section from the Stone Temple Pilots. You have I've lost track. What drop some names on me.
Oh, let's see. I've got them written down because I figured I'd need to have them written down. Well, on the first one we had like we got Robert Trujillo from
Right, the bass player from Metallica.
Metallica. We got Slash,
Right.
Ringo,
I've heard of him.
Mike Campbell,
Unbelievable. Yeah. Ben Montench later.
Johnny Depp. Yeah, Johnny
Johnny
Depp
came
and
in.
Jeff
Yeah.
Beck. The let's see, the Stone Temple Pilots guys.
Yeah.
Todd Rundgren.
Oh my God, one of my favorites.
Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott.
He's on a lot of backgrounds.
And you had Colin also from Def Leppard, right?
Phil Collin,
Phil Collin,
right?
yeah.
And Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Gotta have him, man.
Yeah, I guess
he's a musician. He's pretty damn good. You know? Him and his band are pretty cool.
Yeah.
His bass player's on it too.
Right on.
We got Duff McKagan's on the song. Brad Whitford.
Yeah.
From Aerosmith. Jeff Tweedy.
Oh, I didn't see him in the credits. Amazing. Yeah.
Cheap Trick.
Yeah, right.
The drummer.
Tom Peterson and yeah.
Yeah, minus the drummer. David Mansfield, who played with Bob Dylan in the Rolling Thunder Review and has done many things since he was 17 then.
Yeah.
He arranged the strings on Fiction. Fabulous.
Wow.
Phil Collin, like I said. Tony Shanahan from Patti Smith.
Right.
Brian May.
Right,
Brian
May.
Did guitars and bass on that one song.
Unbelievable.
Precious. And not bad. And Lucinda Williams and Ben Montench.
I mean, on one astonishing musician after another, and it sounds very cohesive. It's not like crazy. It's super cohesive. Well, that's the production.
And of course, and let's not forget Waddy Wachtel and and Steve Hawley. You know.
Yeah, and I remember I met Steve some years ago. It's been a long time since I saw Steve. Oh, I was a roadie for some years, and Steve was playing with some band in Jersey. He was great.
Yeah, and I have to say Dane Clark, because Dane Clark, my drummer from
John Mellencamp's band, an incredible drummer.
He did amazing work because, after Taylor departed us and didn't get to finish the stuff, and Dane was just right there for me.
Yeah. No, every musician on the record is solid, and everything is beautifully played, beautifully recorded. The drum sounds, as a drummer, the drum sounds are beautiful, cracking, clear.
Yeah.
The snares have character, and everything beautifully recorded.
And credit must be given also to James Frazee, the mixer engineer.
Yeah.
Because he really
did you make
came into his own on this one.
Was that made all? Were you all in a room when you did that stuff? Or was
No.
It was all remote.
Here's the story on that.
Okay,
so Ian. I'll try and keep it brief.
I know it must be quite a story.
Ian's manager is the manager for Def Leppard, and so they were talking about an album project and getting him a record deal, and
And he hadn't put out a record in many years, I assume.
Yeah, 2016 was the last one, called Fingers Crossed. I did that one. Well, I've done them all since 2001 Rant.
Oh wow!
But so anyway, there is a mutual friend of Ian, and Ian's friends with Johnny Depp for a while now. There's a mutual friend they have, an amazing rock photographer named Ross Halfin. Ross Halfin has many connections. So Ross and Mike Kobayashi, Ian's manager, started talking, and Ross is like, I can get this person. You want me to reach out? So Ian was getting over a major bout of tinnitus, right? And he didn't know if he was going to be able to do any recording. And I said, let's just take it slow. I'll bring my little Apollo duo, twin, to your basement. He's got a really nice basement that's dead, and he's got carpet and all that stuff. And I'll make a drum program, and you play along with it on your piano, and then we'll do a few takes of your piano, and then I'll have you sing to that with headphones. And we tried. The first one we did was this song called No Hard Feelings, and we had to get that done quick because Johnny Depp was interested, and he had Jeff Beck's ear. Right. So this is like 2020, right?
Right. Just
in the middle, right at the beginning of COVID.
Right at the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah.
Well, it was actually.
It started around March.
It was
It was in March
Yeah.
2020 when the I was on tour when that all happened, so I have a very
Yeah.
clear memory of mid-March to 2020 was when it's really the lockdown started.
Yeah, or maybe it was. You know what? I'm wrong. It's 2021.
Yeah.
So we got it to them, and they came back with this amazing track, and I had put bass on it, and I'd fleshed out the drum program, you know. So we sent it to them, and I put a little guitar on it, and they came back like, "Wow," you know. So, and I gave it to Frazee, and he made a mix of it, and then I eventually I had Dane do the drums again, and I redid the bass, and that was it, you know. And there's Jeff Beck, you know, and
Fucking hell.
and so we kept doing these songs like that in his basement, just, you know, me and him.
Where does he live?
And he lives in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking place have. I wish in Florida no one has basements. I love a basement. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's a giant basement. And he has it's so big his whole band can rehearse in there.
Oh, that's great.
You know, yeah, it's actually like another section of the house, but you know, we started collecting all these demos. They weren't, well, we just call them, you know, stems.
Yeah.
Song stems. We would, and it would just be me and him, but all those vocals are the same vocals that ended up on the record and the piano. Yeah. So really just the only thing that was replaced was the drums, and then stuff was added on, but it still follows the basic arrangement that he and I came up with in the basement.
Wow.
And we'd send it out. The next one was Mike Campbell. He came back with, you know, this amazing stuff on, you know, Bed of Roses.
Yeah.
And somehow we got Ringo involved, but this is all like Ross Halfin and Mike Kobayashi.
Yeah.
You know, getting in touch with the managers and stuff.
Sure. And then Ringo in his home studio sat at his kit and played along with it and sent it in?
I guess. I did my best Ringo imitation, and he played it kind of, you know, he kind of followed that example, but he just made it so much better because he put little suggestions of Get Back.
Oh, yeah. There's a little gallop in there. Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm like, that's the Get Back gallop.
And all these great fills, you know, and it's so Ringo, and he just killed it.
Oh, so great.
He just killed it. And I don't have any contact with him, but I sent his engineer a big thank you. Please tell Richie, you know.
Yeah.
We love it, and thank you.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Because people pretty much just turned him in, you know, gratis. You know, we didn't pay anybody.
Yeah, no, it's I'm amazed again, and the thing that occurred to me listening through it and thinking about Mellencamp too is this sort of the line. There's a very Stonesy line that runs through all these songs. The rhythm arrangements, the simplicity. A lot of them are very simple 1-2 chord arrangements. You know, they're not complex, rangy songs with intense, you know, where they switch to another key or something like that. They're really basic rocks. Yeah. They're very rock and roll. And there's a line of the Stones that runs through all this stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They're not unlike Stones records, really.
Yeah.
But they're very satisfying rhythmically like that.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I agree with that. And it's all, but a lot of the rhythm comes from Ian's vocal, and we're all playing off of that. Now he turns a phrase, and he did spend, like, before we started the first one was 2020, I guess March or something, that No Hard Feelings. He'd been sitting in his basement for 2 years writing all this stuff. Yeah. And he had like 20 plus songs. So I'm like, well, let's get the best 10. And then all of a sudden it turned into like, oh no, and he got a deal with Sun Records.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. Is Sun Records still in? I didn't know that was an ongoing enterprise.
Well, it's Primary Wave, but they bought the Sun imprint, so they're called Sun Records.
That's pretty cool.
And I was like, I don't want to do a double album. I really don't. You know, that's not gonna. But anyway, guess what? We ended up doing part 1 and part 2.
Right.
And
but they were from the same batch. But it's from the same batch of songs, basically.
Well, he, you know, some of them he wrote on the spot. Like he wrote during the period of making these demos. Like Fiction, I think, was the last one he wrote, and that was just last year.
Yeah.
You know, uh, or early last year. You know, we had the stuff, but he kept writing because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He goes down to his basement every
Yeah.
day and writes.
Wow.
You know,
I love that.
he's an artist.
I love see that. That's what I love. I love thinking about that process. Like you go every day, no matter what. You go into the room, you close the door, you put down X amount of you turn your phone off. No one's calling you, and for the next whatever period of time, like I'm just gonna see what happens. Maybe nothing will happen, but maybe something.
But
will happen.
It doesn't matter. You know,
Right,
it doesn't matter because you tried. You know, John says to this day, if you want to be an artist, you have to create something every single day.
See,
and he's right. You know, that's why I'm not an artist.
Right. That's why you're not calling yourself an artist. Very
but
interesting.
I work with artists.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, it's the next best thing. No, you're in your way. You're an art. I think it's fair to say that you're an artist, even though you won't call yourself that. I you know, given your skill set, I think you have an artistry, if you don't want to call yourself an artist. Yeah, I'm fascinated by process and how people make stuff. Like what are the constituent elements that they start with, and how does it grow out?
Yeah, and how it just comes out of thin air.
Yeah.
I mean, I have those eureka moments when I'm working on an arrangement, because I go like, oh my God, the clouds have parted and I can see where to go here.
Right.
We'll do this bar, you know.
Right. I just add, if I just have 2 bars of this, and then I can launch into this other thing, and then it gives me room then I can develop. Yeah. It's amazing. That is another thing that people don't realize, is sort of the skill it takes to take the constituent elements of a song, which might just be a lump of, a couple of phrases, a chorus here, a verse, and try to give it a flow, a beginning, a middle, and end, so that the listener is taken on a little journey, and you have a moment of release, and you have a thing where it switches to an interesting chord to put a spotlight on an idea. I'm a bad songwriter, but I'm fascinated. I've read a book recently about the Beatles and their specific ability to use chords, even though they weren't schooled in chord structure and knew nothing about chord theory as such. They were still somehow able to innately understand how to use chords to highlight ideas, to put the right chord into the right phrase, and suddenly it colors what you've heard. The people don't realize how the chords underneath color what the lyric. Like you put even the basic like major happy, minor sad kind of idea. You see that there. If you put a different chord structure under a song that which is possible, it changes the whole meaning of the song. It becomes very different if you change out the chords. Jazz players will sort of like reinvent chords under a melody, and it gives it it puts you in a whole nother place. People don't realize that's a thing. We're so used to structure a song as this particular, G, C, D, G, whatever. It's like this, but good musicians can switch those things around and color an idea with the notes in the chord. Incredible. I'm absolutely fascinated with that.
Yeah, and that's what John always likes to do too. He's like, well, I've got this melody, change the chords around on it. I'm like, cool, I can do that? Great.
Yeah.
Some people don't like you to do that.
Right.
There's just different kinds of songwriting. And I'm like, well, great. Then I have leeway to do this and this. And, he always says, art should surprise.
Right.
The good art should always surprise.
Right.
One.
If you know what's going to happen, it's not, it's boring. Like a movie. Yeah. Like a bad movie. If you know what's going to happen, that's not a good movie anymore.
Yeah. It should surprise the artist himself. Like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And things can come out of thin air. I probably think of my best ideas when I'm, driving or something like that.
Right. Right.
Because, you're left to your own devices, and I do think of, or like I've come up with stuff, on the treadmill,
Yeah.
That I had to remember because I couldn't write it down.
Right. I'm fascinated with that. I've always imagined that, like there's sort of an alpha state. I know, like I've read that, for example, Dave Grohl would write. He gets on his motorcycle, he motors around L.A., and then the rhythm of the engine, whatever it is, like his brain is able to create melodies. I love this idea of this. I call it an alpha state. I don't know what I'm talking about when I say that.
That's good. That's a good name for it.
But
Yeah,
like
that's a really good name.
I've experienced the same thing driving at night. I love to drive. My years as a roadie, I remember the late night drives, and you're just driving down the highway, and you're doing 75, and the lines are coming at you, and there's no traffic, and you're doing something that you don't really have to concentrate on, and it allows your mind to sort of just kind of. You're doing something specific, and yet you can think openly. I've had great ideas. I'm trying to see if I can find like a driving simulator. I can sit in my house, and pretend I'm driving down 75, at 80, in the middle of the night, and like to try to get into that state where your mind just kind of wanders free. It's a hard place to get to.
A driving app.
Yeah, no, and I've actually looked. There are driving simulators. They're quite expensive. If you're a truck driver, they make these driving simulators.
Yeah.
You can sit in your rig and and sometimes it's like you can draw,
and not crash.
Well, yeah, but what I would want to do is just I want like a highway at night with little traffic. I can pass a couple of people go in and out, and just drive unencumbered down 75 from New York to drive from 95 from New York down to Philly, like maybe a road that I know, and I would imagine technology will allow me to do that. In not too long, but that's that sort of state that you get to where you don't know, like you come up with stuff. It's a hard, that's what artists want to get to, that sort of place where their mind just, meditation.
And the simple songs are always the hardest ones, the simplest ones.
Right.
Ones with two chords are, they're really tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Can't I change the chord here? No.
Right. Yeah, no, we got to stay in that format. What else I want to talk about? I want to talk about John is also turning his. I don't know what the status is, but I see that there's a Small Town, which is a musical based on John's oeuvre, on all his songs. Which you've been. I have the cast recordings. What's the status of that show? Is it going to run? What's it at?
I believe it is. We've had 3 workshops, and the last one was last December, and we were picked up by the New York Theater Workshop. So they're down with it. They want to back it, and we still have to work on the script. The playwright is Naomi Wallace. And she's got it's all about tweaking the script and Act 2 arcs and all that.
Sure.
And so she's working on that, another version of that, but it's not a jukebox musical. It's not intended at all to be a jukebox musical. It's kind of a dark story about a small town in Indiana that has, and it's like around the mid 80s, so it's Reagan time, and it's just fallen by the wayside. And the one big enterprise in the town is the chemical plant, right? And there is a Jack and a Diane, and it's about their sort of journey in this small town. Jack's dad owns the plant. Jack is in law school in New York. He comes back for a weekend to visit, and that's sort of where it all takes place, and how everything's gotten really awful. And so the action is punctuated with John's songs, and they're not all hits.
They're not all hits.
No. There's one song called "I Always Lie to Strangers" that's really dark.
Yeah.
That's on the.
That's not his song?
Strictly a One-Eyed Jack. No, that's his song.
Oh,
they're all his songs,
right.
Yeah. But Longest Days is in there. There's enough red meat.
Yeah, no, Pink House. I happen to notice, and I don't know why that is, but like I listen to, and everything's beautifully acoustic. On the acoustic side, sort of low. It's not a rock band playing these songs. They're mostly sort of low-key acoustic based. Except there's like an encore of Pink Houses that seems to be like an electric recording. Why is that one? Why is one different from all the others?
I think that's probably because it was the last one I did. I just wanted to get on with it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It doesn't mean it's all going to be acoustic, but
Oh yeah.
right now I'm just trying to sort it out because it's just basically all me doing the music.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
And
I mean, it's everything
and
sounds great. And the singers are
and
yeah. I like that the
most of the
singers are.
singers,
I like that the singers are not Broadway singers. They're like rock
yeah,
singers. It's not in a
right,
Broadway melismatic style. It's very
yes,
more straight like rock singers sing.
yeah. Sometimes you have to coach that melismatic out of them, though,
Sure.
and and they all kind of had to pay attention to the way I was singing it because I'm doing John when I'm singing,
Yeah.
so
No,
I
I
know how
noticed.
he
Yeah.
wants it, how it needs to be,
Yeah.
and they did great because that was all like I phoned in pretty much. Some
Really?
of it
Oh yeah.
literally was on iPhone because it was
Oh,
during COVID, and
I would never know. I
yeah,
would never have been able to know that.
yeah. The reason the ones like Hey God, because that got added to last year, so
Uh-huh.
I didn't have anybody doing it yet. So it's yeah, they did great. The cast did fabulously, and but it's amazing what you can do in your little room,
Yeah. Yeah.
in your closet.
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated. I mean, I built a studio in my backyard. I installed a shed in my backyard, which I just, I expected just to be a place I could just rehearse as a drummer, just to find a place to play. It's like
Yeah,
it's like having a gun range. It's always that's the analogy I always use. Like, drums are fucking loud, and so to have a
yeah,
place where I can play and not really bother anybody that's right attached to my house is like a great gift. And then it turned into a record. It turned out to be a nice place to record, and so I made
oh, that's
great,
great.
so I can make great recordings in there, and I've
Yeah,
on for people's records and so forth. So,
yeah,
and to like you said earlier, the skill set of recording is a whole nother thing. There's playing live is one skill set, then playing under microphones is a second thing. You have to
yeah,
figure out how to do that. So that's been a
yeah,
great boon for me too. Yeah. And,
yeah.
and and working remotely, that's another skill you have to learn. How do you do that? You have to,
Yeah,
I'm interested the click idea. I'm sort of, you sort of almost by definition, when you do these things where you're going to farm them out to various people in
you
various
got to be on a
places,
click.
there's got to be a click, which
Yeah,
there's a plus and a minus. Well, if you have a
right.
great drummer, it almost doesn't matter. But there's a uniformity to click recordings that can become oppressive over time. I feel
Hmm.
oppressed by it because I do it all the time, and I made it my point to sort of be at home with a click as a drummer. I didn't ever wanted to fight it. I wanted to
Right.
internalize it, and so it never felt, because I've had recordings earlier in my career where I could hear myself fighting the click, and it always bothered me.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. It feels. I mean, if no one else heard it, I certainly heard it, and so I made it my point to sort of be so at home with the click that I could make it disappear, and I got definitely
Yeah.
better at it, but. I'm fascinated with the idea of sort of doing more stuff freehand, trusting
Hmm.
my inner Ringo, as it were, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and cutting more stuff freehand with the band. I'm going to experiment more with that over the next for the next cycle of Not a Surf recordings. I want to do more just like let it if it wanders off the track a little bit. I think for some songs I don't think that it's so. It's necessary, but yes, when you're farming
Well,
stuff out and people have to be in different places, you almost can't avoid it.
well, you know what Ringo said to Jeff Lynne? I am the fucking
I
click.
am I just was quoting that. It's funny you should say that, because I just a friend of mine wrote to me and said, "Oh, someone's writing. They're having people are, he's writing a book, and people are just sort of, he wants people to write a little thing about a particular song, or some analysis of." And I thought about it for 5 minutes, and I have this particular crazy Beatles thing that I've obsessed on for years, and that is Tomorrow Never Knows. And
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that Tomorrow Never Knows was just Ringo playing for 2.5 minutes. Boom, fap, boom, doom, ba boom, spat, boom, doom,
Yeah.
ba nothing. Just he did that for 2 minutes, and that's not too impossible to think that someone would do that. And then some years ago, I was discussing the song with a friend of mine. He said, "Well, that's a, there's all loops and there's tape loops throughout that song, which everyone knows about." He goes, "Well, the drums are a loop too." I'm like, "Come on, dude, that's
Don't
Ringo."
tell me that.
Well, you know what? It is. It's a 2-bar loop that it's Paul and Ringo. It's a 2-bar, and
Really?
absolutely. So mystery one was it a loop or not, and I sent it to. We had made a record with Chris Shaw, who's done Dylan records and all kinds of great records. And I said, Chris, can you tell? And he dropped it into whatever, whatever program. And he looked at it and he goes, well, there's no way a human being could do that. Like, it's perfect from beginning to end. It never shifts out. It never quavers. It never goes anywhere. Even if they've been playing with a click, which they didn't do in 1960, whatever, six, when they made that record.
There was no click.
No.
Yeah.
And so visually, that was the first thing. And then I found an interview with their engineer at the time. I'm going to drop his name. Emmerich, Jeff Emmerich. And there's an audio interview, and he talks specifically about that moment. He goes, and he sort of jokingly says, Ringo couldn't. I guess I give Ringo a hard time sometimes, but he's the greatest. But that was it. He goes, we dropped that 2-bar loop. I think they did a first take, which you can hear on the anthology, which is kind of sludgy and sort of slow and kind of it's very sort of trippy, and it was like the first thing they were recording, I think, for Revolver.
Yeah, for Revolver,
And it was called Mark 1 or something. They had some other name for it. And I think the next day they went back. I think they did another more up-tempo take, and I think that's where they drew this 2-bar phrase out. So mystery one was solved. Like, Jeff Emmerich confirms that was a 2-bar loop. Now the second mystery was, why are they not taking credit for inventing the drum loop?
Loops, yeah.
They invented it. Like, of all the stuff, and they've invented, automatic double tracking and all the things that the Beatles that were ahead of the curve on, that we're still trying to catch up to them on some level, and we use them as the watermark. Why? And, we've been talking to Paul about all these things, and listen, I just bought the Revolver reissue 2 years ago with an elaborate breakdown of all the loops, but never, anywhere, in any of the printed material or any of the interviews, does Paul or Ringo ever mention this particular aspect of this song, which is an incredibly important song not only in their musical history, but in musical history, period, because of the nature of the recording process and how experimental they were with the loops. Why are they not doing that? And I can only, after dwelling on it for years, the only thing I can think is this. They're not saying it to protect Ringo. That is, I feel that Ringo, because he's the guy, like, I am the fucking click. I think maybe, and this is just a theory that I have, that he's very, he's a great drummer with great natural time. Well, his time is not perfect, but he has great feel, which is different from great time.
Yeah.
And I think somehow they must have made some sort of quiet decision amongst all of them to not take it. Somehow they'd be taking it away from Ringo if they had to sort of publicly say that, oh, well, yeah, that's just 2 bars of us doing over. But from where I'm sitting, the Beatles invented the bass and drum loop and can clearly take credit for it. There's nothing, I've looked around, there's nothing even close to it that predates it. Maybe some John Cage fucking record or something.
Maybe,
maybe some experimental, but not in certain terms of like popular music. There is nothing close. And there was another couple of years before you started to see that kind of thing enter more regularly into pop music, the sort of repeating pattern. But the Beatles clearly invented it, they're not. But they're also not taking credit for it, which is very interesting to me because they can and they should.
Because he takes credit for the other loops on it.
Yeah, no, those are well documented. There's like 5 others.
But should.
Yeah, no, it's genius. I mean, the idea, and I can see them in the studio with pencils, holding the tapes out, trying to. They're all in 3 different rooms doing this like thing that they could only do one time. It was like a live mix. Where
it was totally live.
Where they're writing the
faders.
Live
performance.
They're writing the faders in and out to bring those crazy sounds in and out. Like it's a one-time only thing. So that's a little Beatles thing. But this shows that sort of conflict between drummers and perfection. Like how much perfection do you want? I think that's a lot of the problem with a lot of modern pop music for me is it's innate perfection kind of puts me off. It's too perfect. Like everything's been auto-tuned and all the life's been sucked out of it. My back is up against stuff like that. So for me, in my little drummer way, I'm like, well, maybe I can just quietly get away from just that little element of the click. Maybe I'll have to see if it works or it doesn't work.
Well, I hope it does because I mean, sometimes we cut stuff with no click.
Yeah.
We always ask the question, should we cut this with a click or not?
Yeah.
And there's, like you said, pluses and minuses, and some songs just don't want it. And it just depends on how much you're going to cut and paste other stuff,
Right. Right. Yeah. And you could always listen if it's real, if the drummer falls off the track. I mean, there's always ways to correct things a little bit, and whatever this technology will allow you to do so much stuff. But how much perfection do you want? Every artist has to figure out where to stop futzing with a mix, or how right do you want it to be? I guess
that was a mediocre. That was a mediocre performance, guys. Come on in.
There's a great New Yorker cartoon I won't remember, but it's like there's the guy in the booth and he's looking at the band. He goes, "Let's try that one more time with commitment and pacing and time, like all the things they didn't have. Like, let's try that again, but with right on. Yeah, so I'm fascinated by that the Ringo thing. That's sort of like, I am the time, the humanity of time versus like the what we're used to. This sort of the world of the click that came in. By the mid to late 70s, that became sort of, the influence of disco. Drummers started to have to play more like machines in the 80s for sure. The sort of,
and it weeded out a lot of drummers too.
It did, and you had to sort of get with it. You had to learn how to play that in that very particular way, where that snare drum drops that's the line again. That goes back to Charlie Watts, who was a guy who had an innate calm that if he started somewhere, he was going to end at the same place. He wasn't excitable. I'm an excitable guy, so I might start somewhere and then end somewhere else. But it seemed to me Charlie was the kind of guy who if I start at 175, it's at 80 beats per minute, I'm probably going to end around 80, maybe 81. Listen, Stones records, listen to whatever. Honky Tonk Women starts one place, ends up 15 beats per minute faster, but you don't notice it because that's the song.
Right.
You know it that way.
Because it feels great.
Yeah, it feels, every moment feels great,
like
even though it picks up.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the first chorus, you've gone up 7-8 beats per minute, but only drummers hear stuff like that, and it doesn't really matter. Zeppelin records, I mean, all those classic rock records are beautifully imperfect. Beatles records are made up of dozens of imperfect things, wanky guitar solos and bad edits and random stuff that they just left in.
Yeah.
And the Beatles were apt to, even in their early days, like yell and scream off mic during takes. No one does that now. Everyone's very polite.
Yeah.
Like they're yelling and screaming and adding vocal little parts and improvising stuff as they went. They were used to doing that. And then when they got to their experimental period, where they're like, let's leave the radio on and see what happens and record that.
Right.
They were not afraid of random things happening and using that. And most people don't have that kind of fearlessness about just letting random things happen. Maybe that's the chaos idea that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Well, what happens is chaos can produce happy accidents, and that happens a lot with us. It's like, ooh, I like that. It just comes out. No, it surprises you.
Yeah.
And getting back to that paradigm, and I mean, there's nothing better than that, though. There's nothing more rewarding than a happy accident and a surprise like that.
Yeah.
When you're working on a piece, of music.
Yeah.
Or probably painting too, because any kind of artistic expression.
Right on. Okay, well, we can wind it up. I mean, there was another. I did want to talk about, and we don't have time, and I don't want to get into the topic. The other topic I really wanted to talk about was just touring in general, because I've been through all sorts of levels of touring myself as a musician. Vans and then we graduated, from a van to a van with a trailer on the back, and then from when Not a Surf got big, we went into tour buses and stuff like that. So, and Not a Surf's been a tour bus level band luckily for like 25 years. But there's other levels beyond that I never get to see, and you work at that level, and I would love to know more. I don't think we have time to talk about it today, and maybe another time. But the sort of level where you get on a jet and you're like this. What's it like playing these like stadiums, like your day? Playing some giant place. I'm absolutely fascinated by that, because I want to window it, because I know what I know, but I know there's other levels of stuff beyond there. I'm like, I want to know what that's like. So we don't have to talk about that today. I think we covered a lot of great ground. So what's coming up? What's the next? What are you? What's for over the next couple of months? What's happening?
I'm in my home in Connecticut, kind of like, digging up weeds and stuff for a while, and
Right.
off the clock because we finished our 2 month tour last month, and so I'm off until the end of July, and John and the band are going to go out on this outlaw country tour,
Oh wow.
which is where we'll open, and then Bob Dylan will play, and then Willie Nelson will play, and we're doing all these outdoor sheds, and
Yeah.
one of them's Hollywood Bowl. That's kind of cool.
That's a bit of a shed there. There
Um,
you go.
yeah, and so that'll be for a couple of months, and then we'll end with Farm Aid, wherever that is this year. I'm not familiar yet, but
Yeah.
and then that'll probably be it. Then we'll probably be back and doing the musical for
Fantastic.
me anyway,
Yeah.
and some of the guys in the band. But it's been a good year so far. Last year we toured for 6 months,
Like
or
continue,
actually,
continuously.
yeah, it was like six. We'd have week a week off,
Yeah.
between legs.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a 9 month tour crammed into 6 months because
Wow.
we were doing 2 day off, 3 day off, 2 day off, 3 day off.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one won't be like that. This will be more easier on
Right.
the nervous system.
Do you generally enjoy touring, like the rhythm of touring?
I do, yeah,
Yeah.
I really love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great.
Yeah.
It's really satisfying.
Yeah. I still love it too. I love I love
Yeah,
just like focusing my whole day on playing. It's just a great feeling.
and waking up in a different town, and
Yeah.
if you didn't like the last one, you got a fresh start.
Right. Right. New audience. It's always new.
Yeah,
The audience makes it new again. Even if you're playing the
yeah,
same set every night, the audience makes it everything
yeah,
new. Well,
yeah.
I would love to talk to you forever, Andy York. I really thank you for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it, man. The one or two times we got to play together are really memorable to me. We played with Jake Labatz, like in that little
Yeah,
bar in Brooklyn for like 20
that
people.
was so great.
It was so great
Yeah.
because we didn't know. I mean, I don't think we never rehearsed. We just went in there and played.
No, we talked about it over the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do this and that and that,
Right.
and it's probably like this.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
that's a fun gig, though.
No, I love working that way, like not to know what's going to happen and just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
let it fly with people who are, good at what they do, and something good's going to
yeah,
happen. Yeah, I
yeah.
enjoyed that thoroughly. So I remember those. I remember that very very
That was
fondly. I'm
great.
glad we got to do
Yeah,
that
me
together.
too.
Yeah. All right. Well, my friend, thank you for talking to me, and I'll let you know how this when this all starts to happen, and I really appreciate your time and talking to me, man. I really thank you, man.
Well, I'm so happy to do it, Ira.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, I need interesting people. They're few and far between, and
Yeah.
you're one of those guys, man. You lead an
Oh,
interesting life. It's really unusual, and I appreciate you, putting it out there for me. Thanks, man.
thank you so much,
All
man.
right, all right. Well, I'll let you know how it goes. I'll be in touch with you over the next
Okay,
days, weeks, months, and we'll edit
cool,
it
brother.
together. Love you, man. Thank you so much, Andy.
Love you too. Can't
Yeah.
wait to hear the new album. We
Oh,
heard
I'm
one
very
song
excited.
on FUV, and it was like, wow,
Yeah,
they're back.
yeah, they're jamming. We got 3 singles coming out. We're on a new record. We're on a new label.
Great,
So
great,
it's going to be a
great,
big
great.
year. All
Yeah,
right,
man.
All right,
Let's
I'll talk
do
to you
it.
soon.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
see you, buddy.
Peace, Andy.
I'd like to thank Andy York for allowing me to grill him so viciously for so long. He's an unusually great guy who lives an amazing life as a musician, and I admire him deeply. Thank you, Andy. Okay, well, we're kind of here in the middle of season 1. I hope you're enjoying listening to these half as much as I'm enjoying making them. Up next will be our Mount Rushmore of Drummers episodes, where I will be discussing the attributes of my 4 most influential drummers with a host of other fantastic drummers. There's no way you're not going to want to go out into the weeds with us on this topic. Until the next time, good night from everyone here at A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira. Play us out, boys.
It's a hard